Plans to offer daily flights now to Venezuela from Miami. However, Venezuela is still under a do not travel to advisory by the State Department. That advisory was put in place just before the capturing of Nicolas Maduro.
Good Day Chicago at 7 starts now.
And our big story right now at 7 o'clock, a truck crashes on a ramp, shutting down the inbound Eisenhower. The morning commute is an absolute mess for people trying to get to work from some of the western suburbs.
Also breaking, a deadly plane crash near townhomes in Deerfield. What we now know about the damage.
And these crashes all happening as a thick fog set in overnight. Sticking around this morning, we're under a dense fog advisory. And Mike, you say this fog is going to last well into the afternoon.
Yeah, you're looking at Shed Aquarium there, or you're kind of looking at it. I mean, we're trying to poke through the fog there. Yeah, parts of Chicagoland under a dense fog advisory until 3 in the afternoon. Very unusual this time of year. Sometimes in winter we get these longer lasting dense fog advisories, but that's the case. I think it may even be foggy through tomorrow morning before we get thunderstorms in here and some warmer air. Weather headlines, an active period ahead. Areas of fog into Friday. Much warmer tomorrow afternoon, and then we have 2 rounds of showers and thunderstorms tomorrow into early Saturday morning. At this point, I'm really banking against them being severe. 40 with some drizzle at O'Hare. North wind at 6 miles per hour. The wind chill is 36 degrees, so put on a waterproof jacket out there. 40 at Aurora, 41 at Midway. Kankakee 44, 38 at Woodstock, 43 at Valparaiso in Michigan City. There's that dense fog advisory for the metro area and counties along the lake until 3. Farther inland, that dense fog advisory expires at noon. These are the current visibility numbers. A few spots less than a quarter mile like Gary and Waukegan. O'Hare and Midway in there with 1 mile visibility. Anthony, Gabrielle?
Okay, thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate it. Getting to that breaking traffic news, that portion of the inbound Ike may take a while yet to reopen.
Our Saquon is live at the scene of the crash with some developments, including from ISP. Good morning, Say.
Hey, good morning to you. Yeah, this is something that's going to last a couple of hours for sure. It's causing a huge mess here during such a busy time here in this morning commute. I'll step out of the way so you can see we're kind of overlooking the Eisenhower as we speak. Right now, all eastbound lanes at I-20 are closed between St. Charles Road and I-294. And for reference, we are in Elmhurst right now. Traffic is being diverted off at St. Charles Road, and you can use Route 83 to the west of the Eisenhower if you're looking to go southbound. You can also take Roosevelt Road if you're looking to go east and you're in Elmhurst. Also closed right now is Villette Street and Electric Avenue, as well as the Illinois Prairie Path in Elmhurst and Berkeley. This congestion, guys, is of course the result of a crash that happened just before 3 o'clock this morning. In the last half hour, state police told us about a jackknife semi-truck. They say the driver lost control and crashed through the temporary concrete barriers before coming to a stop on a new and unfinished part of the road. Right now, that truck is hanging from the Eisenhower Expressway overpass. And a quick look at the Illinois Tollway website shows the area where that truck crashed and rolled over is under construction right now. It's actually part of a long-term project on the I-290 and I-88 interchange, which involves some complex traffic shifts. This construction project alone, we know, has caused headaches for drivers with closures and detours related to that project alone. Back here, though, overlooking the Eisenhower, drivers are stuck in stop-and-go traffic and are now having to reroute. Once again, all eastbound lanes at I-290 are closed between St. Charles Road and I-294. Traffic being diverted right now off of St. Charles Road, so you can use Route 83 to the west of the Eisenhower to go southbound. If you are in Elmhurst and you're traveling east, you can also take Roosevelt Road. With this in mind, I will say, we heard from Elmhurst Police earlier this morning, and they say just given the precarious position of that truck right now, which is hanging over the Eisenhower Bridge, we know that this is something that is going to last at least a few hours. We're, of course, monitoring for any sort of updates from police as well as state police. We'll be sure to check back in once we hear more. Guys.
Very complicated situation. Thank you so much, Say, and at such a crucial time in the morning commute, too.
Bad timing.
I do want to take a look at our drive times just because, you want to know what's going on other expressways as well. So that's a closer look at the map of the western burbs where that incident has happened. Honestly, if you're leaving the house right now, maybe try to use North Avenue. That's where about traffic is starting right now on the inbound side of the Eisenhower, and then travel either eastbound or westbound there. Like Say said, you could use Route 83 if you want to head to the tri-state. Your drive time should be around 50 minutes on the Kennedy from O'Hare to downtown. It might be getting a little bit more heavy. 45 minutes if you're headed outbound towards the airport. 60 minutes on the Stevenson from 355 to DuSable Lakeshore Drive. A full 35 minutes on the Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn interchange. Anthony.
Okay, thank you, Gabby. Appreciate it. We also are following some other breaking news. Crews are investigating a plane crash. Small plane went down last night in a residential neighborhood in unincorporated Deerfield. Police say the pilot was killed. Neighbors talked about the moment they heard that plane going down.
We saw the lights sort of coming in, and then we started hearing the trees, like the tops of the trees getting hit, and then we just saw it come in and then go straight down, and we knew it was a plane crash either way, so we ran over there. We tried to knock on the doors of the neighbors to make sure they were okay, and then we tried to check on the pilot, but the cockpit was destroyed, and all we could see was a phone and a jacket.
And it did not appear anyone on the ground was hurt.
And back to news overseas, Iran has launched new waves of counterattacks on Israel and U.S. military bases. Now, footage released by the Pentagon shows a U.S. submarine destroying an Iranian warship in the Indian Ocean with a torpedo. It's the first such use of a U.S. sub since World War II. At least 87 sailors were killed in that attack. There were also reports that Iranian Kurds living in Iraq could join the fight against the Iranian regime. Also, we're learning the names of the 2 more U.S. soldiers who died in the Kuwait attack. The Pentagon says they are 45-year-old Major Jeffrey O'Brien, seen on the left there, and 54-year-old Chief Warrant Officer 3, Robert Marzin. A total of 6 U.S. service members were killed in the attack.
The Senate votes to reject a war powers resolution aimed at ending U.S. military attacks against Iran. The resolution was written to give lawmakers a chance to demand congressional approval before any military attacks take place. Now, this was more of a symbolic resolution, as President Trump would have vetoed it once it got to his desk. Now, the House is expected to vote on that same resolution today.
And we're learning more about the man who is charged with stealing a van full of dogs outside a Lincoln Park pet salon. We brought you the story yesterday. 46-year-old Edwin Herrera is facing multiple charges. The van was stolen on Tuesday morning and was recovered by police hours later. 8 dogs were on board at the time, and none of them ended up being injured. Police say Herrera was seen walking out of a garage and was arrested after matching the description of the van driver based on some surveillance video.
The city's first automatic public bathroom is coming to Wicker Park.
Yeah, I don't really even know what that means, but it's a pilot program, and I guess not everyone is happy to see it. Ryan is in studio with the latest.
We're going to explain exactly how this works. Well, this self-cleaning bathroom is expected to be installed for the intersection of Milwaukee, Division, and Ashland Avenues, right near the CTA Blue Line station. It is an area commonly known as the Polish Triangle. First Ward Alderman Daniel Laspada says the facility will provide a much-needed public amenity in a busy transit and maintenance, and exactly how this bathroom would function during the wintertime.
Their whole approach is to flood everything with water. You know, seriously. It gets mighty cold out there. And yeah, and with no monitoring. And if something goes wrong, supposedly DeKalb is responsible for that, at least in this pilot. But that doesn't mean they're going to have people on the ground.
Residents also questioned whether this facility could attract drug use or other criminal activity. It is expected to be operational by the end of the year. Back over to you guys.
All right, Brian, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Taking a live look outside right now. A foggy one. We're getting another check of our forecast from Mike Kaplan. Visibility is limited. Repeat, visibility is limited.
You have nailed it. The visibilities are going to vary from time to time, place to place. You might be, what do you see there? Remember yesterday, that view was really cool. You could see the tops of the buildings through that fog. Now you got bupkis out there. So be careful. Give yourself extra time. If you're flying today, there may be some delays. Hello, airline, what's going on? There's a little bit of drizzle showing up on the Illinois side. These are actual bona fide rain showers in northwest Indiana, moving to the northeast. Everything conspiring to just kind of create a damp day between the rain and the light fog that is out there across much of the area. Let's look at the visibility. At O'Hare and Midway, 1 mile visibility. That's improved over the 1/8 of a mile that we had not that long ago. Really low visibility at Waukegan, a half mile at Morris. Less than an 1/8 of a mile at Gary, or actually that's right at about an 1/8 of a mile. Valparaiso, a 1/4 mile. There's fog everywhere in Chicagoland, but the dense fog advisory is going to last longer close to the lake. That's when those 3 o'clock expiration times are. Today, I'm putting 42 up for the official high at O'Hare. Some drizzle or a light rain shower. There will be some warmer temperatures well southwest and west of the city where you might even get into the 50s. In fact, I'll show you the temperature map here. You'll notice near the lake and north, it's colder. Farther west you go, gets a little bit milder. And then we'll await tomorrow. That is when I think we have 2 rounds of showers and thunderstorms coming in here. The first in the morning, the second will be at night. If there's going to be any severe weather, and I'm really leaning against that, it would have to happen at night. Over the weekend, highlighted by daylight saving time started. We'll set our clocks ahead 1 hour when we go to bed on Saturday night.
Yikes.
Lose an hour of sleep.
Yes,
Just what we need. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Sarah. A federal judge issues a ruling whether some companies are entitled to refunds with these Trump tariffs now declared illegal by the Supreme Court. We'll talk more about that coming up.
And electric.
Welcome back. We are following breaking news. A portion of the inbound Eisenhower Expressway is right now completely shut down due to a semi-truck crash.
Yeah, let's talk more about it. That semi-truck is partially hanging off the ramp, and we just heard actually that industrial tow trucks are on site right now. The closure is on the inbound side between St. Charles Road and the Tri-State Tollway. State police say the truck lost control and crashed through concrete barriers in a construction zone. There's a big I-88 290 reconstruction project that's happening there. The semi is carrying 41,000 pounds of plastic material. It is not considered a hazmat situation.
Also breaking this morning, the NTSB is investigating a plane crash in Lake County. It happened last night in unincorporated Deerfield. The pilot was killed. The FAA says the plane had taken off from Madison, Wisconsin. No one on the ground was hurt.
The U.S. House will vote today on a war powers resolution. So a Senate vote to rein in President Trump's war with Iran failed yesterday. Democrats say the president should have asked Congress for approval before dropping bombs on Iran.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem was back on the hot seat on Capitol Hill. She faced more questions about immigration enforcement yesterday. Lawmakers showed video of the shootings of American citizens Alex Preddy and Renee Good in Minnesota. Secretary Noem called the scene that led up to the shooting of Preddy an example of domestic terrorism. She also called Renee Good a domestic terrorist. Democratic Congressman Jeremy Raskin tried to get Noem to admit she was wrong about that characterization and to apologize to their families.
So do you regret speaking before the investigation?
I would say that in those situations,
you regret that?
Chaotic scene on the ground, we relay information to the American people that they're asking for. And as things change, situations change.
People were asking you whether they were domestic terrorists? And you decided that they were before the investigation?
As we learn more, we...
You don't want to say anything to their families?
Mm-hmm. I did. I said condolences.
For what?
How
about an apology for what you said about their loved ones?
My heart is with them, and we will continue to stand with them as they get a complete investigation into these situations.
Approximately how many?
During the hearings, Democrats and several Republicans called for Noem's resignation.
Attorney General Pam Bondi has been subpoenaed in the House Epstein investigation. The Oversight Committee is calling on her to answer questions on the DOJ's handling of the Epstein files. 5 Republicans joined Democrats to vote in favor of the subpoena. Bondi and the DOJ have been under growing criticism over the files, which have seen a delayed release and the names of some non-victims redacted.
A federal judge says companies are entitled to refunds for President Trump's now illegal tariffs. The federal government collected more than $130 billion with the president's emergency tariffs through mid-December and could be on the hook for billions in refunds. Multiple states and companies have already announced that they are indeed looking to be repaid here. The Supreme Court shot down the president's new tariffs last month, but in their decision did not make any mention about refunds.
And there's somewhat of an update here in the search for Nancy Guthrie. Law enforcement says they tracked the DNA from a glove. Remember, that was found about 2 miles from the crime scene, and the sample led them to a restaurant employee from the area. But reports say that person is not part of the investigation and that glove is not related to Nancy's case. The FBI had previously said the results did not match anyone in their database. And fans are remembering legendary college football coach Lou Holtz. He died yesterday at the age of 89. The longtime Notre Dame coach won a national championship with the Fighting Irish in 1988. Holtz spent a season with the Jets and was head coach of 6 different schools, ending his coaching career at the University of South Carolina in the early 2000s. He also spent more than a decade broadcasting with ESPN. Holtz was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2020 for his influence on sports and American culture.
All right, 7:17, time to get another check of this weather. It's a foggy one, it's a murky one out there, Mike. How long is this fog going to hang over the city?
Well, you know, I think off and on through tomorrow morning. This is since late last night, the night before technically, we've had this fog, at least in some state of visibility reduction for almost 48 hours now, and it's going to last a little while longer. What I'll say, though, about the fog is it comes and goes. For example, earlier this morning, you couldn't even see the bean. Now we have a view there, but in general, it is still really clouded over. Here's a view from the roof of our building, and you can barely see Marina City. The river's down there somewhere, but we do have that low visibility across most of the area. Visibilities have dropped to less than a mile. Really really all night long across much of Chicagoland. We've actually gotten a poorer visibility at Midway. A little while ago, it was a mile down to 3/4. So this stuff is going to be fluctuating throughout the day today. And you'll notice this as you're driving around. You might be going down the road, say, it's not that bad. And then all of a sudden, whoa, what happened? I can't see in front of my hood. So watch out for that. Today, fog center stage. There'll be some spotty drizzle and maybe a light rain shower here or there. 42 for the high at O'Hare, but it will be warmer southwest. Tomorrow it does get warmer, but we have thunderstorms in the forecast, 2 rounds, morning and then at night. I am hopeful and pretty confident that the timing of that nighttime round of storms will be late enough to minimize or eliminate the risk of severe weather here. Saturday night and Sunday morning, set the clocks ahead for daylight saving time. Monday looks beautiful ahead of the next storm system with showers Tuesday and again on Wednesday. All right, 7:20 almost. This is this Eisenhower problem. What's the latest there?
Yeah, Mike, we're looking at a live picture right now. This is like the Elmhurst area. A truck is hanging from an Eisenhower Expressway overpass over, in the western burbs. So all lanes of eastbound, which is the inbound side of I-290, the Eisenhower between St. Charles Road and 294, they're blocked to traffic. So state police say around 2:40 this morning, a semi-truck jackknifed and lost control and crashed through temporary concrete barriers there. IDOT said that the truck pretty much ended up between an old bridge and that is being demolished and the new bridge as well. We know, I've been thinking about this, the area, it's part of ongoing long-term construction for I-290, I-88, that big interchange project that's going on. So there's a lot of traffic shifts happening in that area. Again, right now, there is a closure on the inbound side of the Eisenhower. Find an alternate route for yourself, please. And you're also looking at the drive times there, which take a look at those as we head to break. Well over pretty much almost close to an hour on most of our expressways. The Eisenhower is going to be a little skewed because of that closure. We'll be right back.
hard as you do.
Welcome back. Dravet syndrome is a rare and severe form of epilepsy, and it is one that brings daily debilitating seizures.
But clinical trials for a first-of-its-kind treatment are underway, and they're being led in part by a doctor at Lurie Children's. Early trials are showing major promise. They're exploring the use of zorevunersen in patients between ages 2 and 18. The drug targets a patient's normal SCN1A gene, causing it to work harder to compensate for their mutated gene. One of the experts leading the study, Dr. Locks, Linda Locks, heads the Epilepsy Center at Lurie Children's. A patient of hers named Owen has seen remarkable results in the trial, not just with fewer seizures, but also improvements in language and social development.
Been an incredibly strong and remarkable human, and to watch him connect and make friends and remember the friends' names and want to go to school and live the best version of his life possible has been incredible.
It's a very promising study. It gives the families the hope of a medicine that, because it's treating the underlying cause of Dravet syndrome, it will help them in all of the ways that the sodium channel receptor mutation harms their child.
81 patients took part in the first 2 phases of the study. Now researchers are enrolling patients in the 3rd phase of the trial.
Chicago State University will play its inaugural football season starting in August, and now the team officially has a quarterback. Trey People is QB1. He just transferred to Chicago State from LSU. Trey, there he is right there. He's from California, and he joined us on Chicago Live to talk about what he will bring with him from the national championship winning program at LSU.
How we prepared, how we practiced, how we recovered, how we did everything. So me being able to take that experience and going to Chicago State, and building that foundation of, going with the grit and the grind and competing like we are competing for, an FCS national championship. So I think those will be pretty helpful in building that program at Chicago State.
And the Cougars' home games will be played at SeatGeek Stadium in Bridgeview. School is planning to build their own stadium in the future. It's fun to see your team get off the ground.
I like it.
Yeah. Mike?
With a good quarterback coming in there, yeah. All right, we have fog out there, a few spots of light rain and drizzle as well. Tomorrow, though, thunderstorms, I think, are going to threaten the area twice, even as warm air moves in from the southwest. I've got the forecast coming right up.
Fisher and I approved this ad.
Welcome back. Time now 7:29, and a crash, has shut down parts of the inbound, one section, I should say, of the inbound Eisenhower truck. There it is right there. You can't see it dangling, but portion of that truck's reportedly dangling off the roadway there, partially hanging off the off-ramp. And we just heard that industrial tow trucks are on site right now trying to clear that scene. This is right between St. Charles Road and the Tri-State on the inbound side of the Eisenhower Expressway. State police say the truck lost control and crashed through concrete barriers in a construction zone, and that semi is carrying 41,000 pounds of some sort of plastic material. It is not considered a hazmat situation, but it is having a huge impact on the travel situation from the western suburbs this morning. You are going to want to avoid that area entirely. As we take a look at our drive times, 78 minutes is the inbound time on the Eisenhower, and it's not a whole lot better on the other expressways with this fog we're dealing with. On the Kennedy Expressway, you're at 54 minutes inbound from the big airport to downtown. On the Stevenson, you're at about an hour from I-355 to DuSable Lakeshore Drive. And on the inbound Dan Ryan, it's clogged there as well. 42 minutes it'll take. That's your ride time between 95th and downtown. I also want to mention there's a crash on northbound I-65 just south of Gary, kind of west or east, I should say, of Highland. And there's also another accident on 394 in the south suburbs. There's a disabled vehicle that is kind of snarling things on 394 right near where it intersects with I-80, so be aware of that. If you're taking the Metro, that's probably a good move today. Metro running smoothly. All right, news that Waymo's self-driving cars have begun testing here, making some waves online. Now there's a new push to regulate these self-driving cars.
State Senator Michael Hastings joined us on the Chicago Report to talk about the new measures that he's introducing.
You know, some people would say that Illinois is maybe moving too fast, trying to catch up to some of the other states that are already using these. Would you agree that maybe things have escalated pretty quickly, especially with people running out to go, get a sighting of them last week? But do you think that these guardrails will work in the end?
I think it's really a combination of both. On one hand, other states have already begun deploying autonomous vehicles, and I just don't think Illinois should be sitting on the sidelines while the future of transportation is being developed somewhere else. There's just a lot of economic opportunity tied to this technology, whether it's investment, innovation, and jobs. So we need to make sure this technology is introduced carefully and responsibly. It allows Illinois to catch up with innovation, but also put some common sense guardrails around how the technology is tested and evaluated.
And obviously, what works in one place may not work for another location. What would this bill change about how or when they're able to operate?
So what it does, it's a pilot program. So Chicago is certainly one of the places where this technology is likely to appear first, just because the size of the city and the complexity of the transportation system. Larger counties, typically have more infrastructure, more traffic diversity, and more oversight capacity. And that makes them ideal environments for these testing of new transportation technology. So starting in large counties allows us to study it in a complex environment before expanding it more broadly across the state. Like I said before, though, it operates in other states and in other major cities. This is just an expansion of that and setting up the framework safely for this to be employed.
Now, when you mention safety, obviously some of the issues that these companies are running into in other states when it comes to autonomous vehicles would be what happens if they're involved in a crash? I mean, what happens if, especially in a place like Chicago with so many people driving about on the roads, what happens if there is an incident? Who would be legally responsible?
And that's some of the stuff we're actually going over right now in Springfield, is we have a lot of organizations, especially in the legal industry, the Trial Lawyers Association, other groups that provide driver services. Number one, we want to make sure this is safe. Number two, if something bad happens, how do you respond? Whether a car shuts down, a car is engaged in an accident. What I've found, especially going to California, seeing Arizona, these cars are very safe. And it's very few and far between that they get into an accident. It's just the news stories that kind of show you when something occurs, and then there's some criticism. That's why we want to have a pilot program we want to have the proper oversight so that people can actually respond when something does happen.
I don't know, fellas. I don't know about that.
I know. I'm a little skeptical. We did a report. We did an interview about a guy who has been covering these extensively. He said it took just like one ride to break the ice, and then he was used to it after that.
We just got to give it a chance.
Yeah, but
little field trip for us.
I've got some friends who've got the self-driving Teslas, and they love it, and I'm just like, I'm not ready.
Yeah,
I'm not ready to go there. I just can't do it. We have fog out there, a few spots getting some drizzle, some bona fide rain showers, especially in northwest Indiana. It's just damp out there, and temperatures are going to be slow to climb. However, where you get out of the thickest fog, especially well southwest of the city, that's where you might actually tag 50 degrees today. I just think temperatures close to downtown and the lakefront are not going to budge much today, probably staying in the low 40s and be very little wind out there. Dense fog advisory for all of Chicagoland until at least noon. But Lake, Cook, DuPage, all of northwest Indiana counties that adjoin the lake, that is in effect until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We'll see. I mean, there's a chance maybe the fog lets up a little bit. It has done so in O'Hare, for example. It's still out there, but it's not too bad with 1 mile visibility. But at Midway, it was 1 mile. It's gone down to a half mile in the past half hour, and there are some spots like Gary and Waukegan, about an 1/8 of a mile visibility. It's just murky out there. A couple of showers, some drizzle, low clouds, just kind of a yucky day. Temperatures are going to be slow to climb. But tomorrow, we're going to move a warm front through here in the morning. With that, showers and thunderstorms will accompany the surge of warmth during the morning between roughly 7 and 10, give or take, maybe a lingering shower early in the afternoon. Then the question is, will there be some stronger thunderstorms at night? Our model and most others are saying no, it comes through here so late that the instability, the amount of energy in the atmosphere is lower. Consequently, yeah, there can be a thunderstorm, but the risk of severe weather, thank goodness, is much lower. It's not zero, but it is mighty low. Saturday, breezy with temperatures on the way down after a high of 62. Saturday night, you go to bed, clock's ahead 1 hour. Daylight saving time starts on Sunday. Sunday, pretty nice day, sunshine at 58. 68 on Monday. And then another storm system comes in here Tuesday and Wednesday with temperatures still warmer than normal and some occasional shower activity in the form of rain. Got a couple of photos to share with you. How about this scene here? A foggy and rainy night in Arlington Heights. Glenn Cowpert sending in that shot, very atmospheric. I like the tree there being lit up. I bet you can take that exact same picture later tonight, Glenn, if you want. How about something different in the sky? This is from my friend and professional photographer, Christian Lim. He's been in Lofoten, Norway, one of the hot spots for taking pictures of the northern lights. What a spectacular show there. And there you see in the upper left, that is the full moon out there. Christian, hopefully you're able to watch this. I know I sent you the link to watch us live here online, but I appreciate you sharing that picture of the Aurora Borealis. There are the travel times. Coming up, we're going to talk severe weather in the Chicago area with a man who knows what he's talking about, Victor Gensini from NIU. Don't go away.
time for action.
Welcome back to Good Day Chicago. Temperatures starting to rise, yay, but that also means our chance for storms also on the rise. This is Severe Weather Preparedness Week in Illinois. It's a time to make sure you're weather ready for everything from tornadoes, derechos, flash flooding, you name it. We're happy to have Professor Victor Gensini joining us this morning, Professor of Meteorology at the very fine school, Northern Illinois University. Victor, thanks for joining us this morning. I want to start out with a little note about tornadoes in Illinois. The past couple of years, we have been like at the head of the class with the most or second most tornadoes in the entire country. What do you attribute that to?
Well, you know, the U.S. as a whole sees about 1,300 tornadoes every year. Typically, we average around 60 to 70 in Illinois, with thankfully only maybe a dozen or so of those actually being significant tornadoes. Illinois is a pretty big state from north to south, maybe not east to west, but Rockford all the way down to places like Cairo. It's a pretty ripe breeding grounds for severe weather ingredients. Illinois has a very long tornado history. Some documented tornadoes way back in the 1800s. So we know that tornadoes can happen here. It is sort of on the eastern fringe of Tornado Alley, so to speak. But as you know, and lots of the research that we have shown over the last couple of decades has really proven that there has been an increase in the number of tornadoes every year in places like Illinois, and that has certainly continued over the last couple of years.
Do you think that may be at least in part attributable to the fact that more people are seeing them, recording them, so we're getting more verification of tornadoes when they happen?
You bet. I mean, a tornado happens now, and within 30 seconds, it's up on YouTube. That was certainly not the case in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, et cetera. So very few tornadoes now go undocumented. But when you look at the overall ingredients of where tornadoes form and how they form and kind of track those numbers through time, which are more independent of the tornado reports, we do see an increase in those number of environments in places like Illinois too. So we can't say that the trend is all reporting or all non-meteorological. Mm-hmm. There is some climate variability component to that as well.
All right, this being Severe Weather Preparedness Week in Illinois, what are just a handful of things that you recommend we do in the general public to make sure that we are weather ready? Of course, one of the things that is happening, the Storm Prediction Center is updating their maps that they're going to provide for the public to make them a little bit more informative.
Yeah, let's take the preparedness angle first. I mean, everybody should visit ready.gov. Sure you have a severe weather kit in your house. I always tell people, what they ask, what can you do during you and the potential tornado is possible. So get to an, but your preparedness could have something like a helmet in it. A lot of the tornado injuries and casualties we see are blunt force trauma to the head. So something like a bicycle helmet in that kit can actually be a lifesaver. And you mentioned the SPC reports. That is really the combination of decades of research that is now going into transforming some of these severe weather outlooks that folks like yourself will augment and put on the air and really give people additional information about the potential intensity. So how large we think the hail might be, how significant the tornado might be, or in the case of derechos, what might the peak wind speed be? So we're getting some additional intensity information with some of these new SPC outlooks that just went live, I believe, 2 days ago.
Last year, you went out with a team of researchers into the field to study hailstorms. It was Operation Ice Chip, and you were so kind to send me a metal plaque. I have it in the background of my Studio C updates every day, Victor. What are some of the early findings about hailstorms, which I think sometimes people neglect just how damaging those are? What are some of the early findings of your research?
Yeah, I mentioned 60 to 70 tornadoes in Illinois. We get about 800 hail reports every year in Illinois, with 75 of those being baseball or greater. So hail is a much more sort of economic impact, especially in Illinois. Yeah, we were out for 42 days in the spring, following thunderstorms around, collecting hail. We're going through a lot of that data right now in the lab. Maybe some early findings would suggest some of the places that we look at or look for on Doppler radar to find the largest hail might not be exactly where the largest hailstones are falling. So we're going through that data. We'll be going through that data, combing through that data really in the lab over the next several years to find hopefully some things that will then translate into operational meteorology so that you can then relate to the viewers exactly maybe how large we think the hail is and where the largest stones will be falling on any given day.
All right. Well, we look forward to the additional findings there from Ice Chip. Professor Victor Gensini, we thank you for joining us this morning, and hopefully we have fewer tornadoes and less severe weather this year. But you never know. Better to be weather ready. Take care of things out there in DeKalb for us, Victor. Great to have you on this morning.
Good to see you, Mike. Thanks for having me.
See ya. Here is a look at what's coming up on Good Day Chicago at 8 and 9. We'll be right back after this.
Fox.
(7:49). Welcome back. We're following some breaking traffic news this morning. A semi crash shuts down part of the inbound side of the Eisenhowers. Now here's a live look of this area, or just below this overpass. The truck leaning on the cement wall of the ramp overpass there. You're seeing industrial tow trucks. They are on site right now. At least we're getting closer. The closure on the inbound side is between St. Charles Road and the Tri-State Tollway. State police say the truck lost control and crashed through concrete barriers, and it's in a construction zone. The semi is carrying 41,000 pounds of plastic material. Luckily, it is not considered a hazmat situation.
Also breaking this morning, crews are investigating a plane crash in Lake County, which happened last night in unincorporated Deerfield. Pilot was killed. The FAA says the plane had taken off from Madison, Wisconsin, then went down in that neighborhood. No one on the ground was hurt.
President Donald Trump says the military missions in Iran are going to plan. The White House is now reportedly considering arming Kurdish opposition groups to help the people of Iran rise up against their government. Lawmakers on Capitol Hill will make another attempt today to limit the president's war powers.
All right, here's a look at your drive times. Things very much stacking up out there. We've been following this breaking situation of a partially overturned semi hanging off a ramp on the inbound Eisenhower right at I-294. 74 minutes, your inbound drive time. Not much better on the other area expressways. Keep it close. We'll be right back.
The content of this ad.
Today, officials in Joliet will consider a proposal to build a massive new data center in the city. The nearly 800-acre site is on the agenda for tonight's Plan Commission meeting. If it does pass, the full city council could vote on the measure in the next 2 weeks. This was originally up for a vote in October, but the staff pulled it at the last minute, saying that they needed more time to review issues raised by the public.
We are in the middle of tax season, and it may come as no surprise that Illinois taxpayers are paying the highest rate in the country. Finance company Wallet Hub ranks Illinois #1, followed by New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey.
The thing about where the situation in Illinois is a little bit different in that we rattled off the bottom 5 states of those northeastern states. Most of those states like New Jersey and New York have higher median annual income, so they can kind of withstand it a little bit more. Illinois' median annual income is right at the national average of $81,000. So the residents in that state are probably going to struggle.
The states with the lowest tax rates are Alaska, Delaware, Wyoming, Idaho, and Montana.
All right, Chicago is about to get its first automatic public bathroom in Wicker Park. This will be right by the CTA Blue Line. There's a shot of how it apparently works. First Ward Alderman Daniel Laspada says the facility will provide a much-needed amenity in a busy transit corridor, but some people are worried about safety and maintenance.
And the problem is the location. That is a hub for city travelers and people coming from O'Hare internationally. And they come up into a lot of pigeons and dirt and not too cool.
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah, what a sweetheart. The self-cleaning facility is planned for the intersection of Milwaukee Division and Ashland. It is expected to open by the end of the year.
Can I put my 2 cents in? Okay,
Do
it's
it.
cleaning the toilet seat, but what about the floor? Look at, because
Hey,
all
look,
that
it's
stuff on the
misting
toilet
the floor.
seat is going to end up on the floor and on your shoes.
It looks like there's a squeegee device.
Okay.
That's going to take
I
care of
still
the
have
floor
questions,
too.
Anthony.
I do
Thanks.
too.
Plenty more on Good Day Chicago ahead. Keep it right here.
Chicago.
Fox Local.
Welcome back. Attorney General Pam Bondi has been subpoenaed to answer questions about the Justice Department's handling of the Epstein files. 5 Republicans on the House Oversight Committee joined Democrats voting in favor of this subpoena. Bondi and the DOJ have faced growing criticism following delays in releasing the files, including the names of alleged victims.